Morning, good morning. I just returned, my family and I live in Tampa Bay, and I just returned from a sabbatical. How many have had one or know that you're praying for one? I had one actually I was able to go to Israel. It happens to be where my mother was born, and I'm also dual citizen, and it was just really, really a meaningful time, and I would just ask you to pray for breakthrough and pray for peace. There are many people calling on God and trying to figure out their faith over there. But why do I bring that up? Besides, it's near and dear to my heart. While I was on sabbatical, I was supposed to not be working at all, and a dear friend said to me, "Can you help me with this branding marketing stuff?" And I was like, "I'm supposed to be on sabbatical, but I'll help you with some conversations for free, and however I can be a blessing." How many know that feeling? Okay, how can I serve, right? And it turns out what they're doing is helping people come back to Israel to make it their homeland. But what they do is they communicate from passion, they communicate from scripture and prophecy, but they haven't made it clear. And so one of the things that's a passion for mine is to help people get their stories out very, very clearly so that people can understand it for themselves without you having to explain it to them. Are you guys with me? So when you talk about your name, the name of your church or congregation, when you look at the logo or the brand mark, what's your tagline? Do you sound like all the other churches and they don't know how to discern by what they're seeing here? Have you embraced that God's that Jesus has given the Great Commission to everybody, but you can only do a sliver in your community with the people God gave you, with the gifts that are in your community? And you could actually go, we do that by, man, our heart is for the poor, right? And then and really being a bridge into the community. That's how we're going to be the expression of all of that. And then some people are like, we're after college and career adults. We're reaching the next generation of leaders, and we're going to invest. And then the facility starts taking on different, right, shapes, right? Your ministries that you choose to do get tailored to meet those needs and reach those the community effectively. And so that's my job, to jump in there with you and say, that's your heart, but what about the community? What do they think about it? And oftentimes, the first impressions aren't as clear for the people that we're trying to invite in, right? For the sake of the good news, to share the gospel. They're not getting it. So, for example, one of the things that I really lean on is that first impressions happen in 100 milliseconds. First impressions occur in 100 milliseconds. Why? It's a very human exchange. When someone walks into the room, you scan them, you look at their eyes, you look at their outfit, something, and you go, I've got a determination about this something. Some of it's natural, right? Do I need to run from this person? Is this a danger? Is this a threat? Is this an intelligent person? Should I talk to them or not, right? Some of it's just natural, but we do, don't we? When a speaker comes up and they drop their papers on the floor, you go, oh, brother, this is going to be a doozy, right? Or you see someone come up with good posture, and they're communicating, and they're very clear and cogent in their thoughts, and you go, wow, I'm listening. You got my attention. That's what we do. And so what we want to do, I think, for the sake of the gospel and the good news, we want to take every step we can to steward those first 100 milliseconds. Are you with me? And so let me play the other side of the coin. If and when you make a first impression, do you know what it's going to take, the hard work and effort it's going to take to change that first impression? 13 touches. 13 touches that says, that first impression I had, I was wrong. Or I was absolutely right. So follow me for a second. If you guys are a community congregation and you really have a heart for children, and their first impression of it's a traditional, an established, rigid, type, that's their first impression, you're going to miss the people you're trying to reach. Are you with me? And then you're going to have to do all that hard work with PR and social media and all those touches to reverse that. So I think that's one of the things that I think is really important to hand off to you guys is think about not the pastor's heart, not from the deacon's heart, not from the member's heart, right? Think of it from the point of view of a stranger that you're trying to invite in to be a part of your community, to hear the good news, to walk out that life together. So a little bit before I dive in, are there any top questions that you have about marketing or branding that you go, if you could just get me this answer, that would help me a lot? And then I know that I'm helping someone here. Anyone have any major questions or a doubt or a wonder? Like, what does this mean? Anyone have that for me? Is it so confusing no one wants to ask? Yeah, I understand. So I follow a process where I'll come in and we'll do a discovery. We'll listen to you, but we'll also go to the community and find out what's the culture in the community. How do they look at churches? What is some of the patterns? And we'll think about it from the perspective of who you're trying to reach, right? Know your audience, right? Think about it. If you, as a pastor or a teacher, if you are teaching in the main service, how does that come across if you go and talk to the kids in toddler preschool, right? Like you do a little talk, or to elementary, you change what you say per audience, right? So sometimes what I feel in churches is we say, well, we're going to tell the good news and we'll lean on scriptural language and we talk like everyone understands what we're talking about. It's insider think, right? So if I'm speaking to a stranger who's never read the Bible, and I'm using a Bible reference, they already don't know, I've already lost them. Are you with me? So it does give us a freedom to speak to them on their terms, and then that makes them have a curiosity to come and say, I want to learn more about what you guys know. I don't know what you know. So it allows you the freedom to write things more specifically. So I'm going to show you a simple framework, and I can't take too much time on it. But if this was representation of the church and the organization and how you guys run things and organize all these moving people and hearts and callings and vision, right, to one, we would start with why. Why are we doing this? And if someone says to accomplish the Great Commission, why? And why here? And why with this people? And why with this city, right? And why with this building and this campus? Why? Wow, a lot of clarity comes out. Well, just God has given us a burden for families. Wow, that's great. Okay, then a lot of what we do is going to flow out of that. Are you guys with me? If we can distill down to some of that clear identity, everything else gets more potent. If it's Jesus said, let's go, it's true, but it's not what resonates, what's deep inside. And then if you get to a point where your leadership team also can get to that point of like, yes, that's who God's called us to be, man, what we do now starts getting clear, doesn't it? If we're called to reach families, then our ministry programs and the things we're going to do are going to be catered towards families, right? What age? Young families, developing families, or families with college students, etc. And then the way is the culture we want to create to work and serve within, and then also the experience for strangers to come in. When they come in, they go, ooh, I feel this. This is made for me. I'm a father of a young family. I needed this. I feel it. It's in what I see in the building. It's the entranceways. It's the ministries. You're speaking my language, right? And then all of this flows together cogently into any of the touch points. So since we're at a BGW seminar, the facility makes a statement when people drive by. They go, what kind of building is that? Oh, that's 200 years old. That must be a denominational church that follow, and you might be a community church that's not really denominationally led, right? The building, the curb appeal, your sign, the first moments when they open the door and you're in the entranceway. All of these are touch points that people interact with before they ever make a decision, and they're making these first impressions. Nat talks about how many times people check online 12 times before they'll ever come for a visit. So now we're talking digital, right? Your website, your social media, all of these things create impressions. And I'll just say it like this: if you haven't taken the time to go who we are and how God's called us and the tools and the gifted people in this congregation to reach this community, if we haven't figured out our heartbeat is for, then some of your communication is going to come across general. right? It's going to come across as we're here for good. We're here to love God and find God and follow God. We're here to serve our community. It's going to come across as something you might see in other churches, right? Which is not bad, not at all. But there's something potent that can resonate with someone when they go, "Wow, families are the future," or God, God is. I'm making things up. I shouldn't. But this idea of the potency of God, how God sees the world through the lens of family. Wow, I've never thought of that. I'm not a Christian, but I've never put that two and two together. Wow, I'm going to check those. I'm going to check out that community. It's something we're trying to resonate with people. And so touch points, one of the things that we really can go, and you guys can write this down if this is something you're digging into. This is something called an empathy map. And you can find tools like this for free online. Matt talks about find anything that you can grab for free while you're here. This is a representation of if you were that target picture in the center, right? That could be young adults. That could be seniors. That could be international ethnic groups that are vibrant in your area. It could be anything that you're targeting, but we can start thinking on the left side, what are they thinking and feeling about? Maybe a young family is trying to figure out how to stay happily married and be parents, right? Or how do I handle career and family? And when we start thinking, putting ourselves in their shoes, now we minister more effectively, right? We can communicate more effectively. Our sermons, the teachings, the groups that we offer, because we know who we're trying to serve, right? It's this simple thing of knowing your audience, but stepping in their shoes, a lot of beautiful things come out of it. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of where we took this process to discover and then define, and then now we're creating brands and marketing and communications that is tailored to a group. This one's very, very interesting. Something we did in Los Angeles, they were trying to reach the generation of 13 to 30-somethings who had a Jewish parent or grandparent, but just weren't interested in God. It just didn't have any connection. And so that was the outreach focus. So the why on the top left was live out a Jewish expression of life in Jesus. Show them that there's no distinction there, that we're following Jesus, but you have this heritage, bring that to him. And so what we did is we helped them define what they wanted to do was shape a modern discipleship-making community in this context. And then the way they were going to do it was from generation to generation, old and young. They wanted to celebrate that, a full community. And so what we were able to do is develop some of these brand values and then go to the city. What was going on in West LA? And one of the things I can highlight here and then zing on by was there's a lot of dreamers and artists and creatives that would leave and go out west, right? How many know someone that went to LA to try to be discovered, or an artist? Yeah. I see the hands. A music or in Hollywood. And what happens is they're dreamers. They don't have any structure. They've left home to pursue their dreams. And basically the bottom line is they show up and they go, I'm lost. I'm all alone. And I wish I had a community. No one knows my last name. I don't know where to go to church, or I have no spiritual connection. And so we were able to boil it down. And then we defined our audiences for them. They were looking for people who were secular, that had this connection, people who are intermarried with multiple faiths, 2 different faiths. How do we raise a family now? And then those who have a Jewish heritage, but also were already believers, just weren't connected in community, and it flowed into the branding and communications. And so this is the idea of thinking from their shoes. And if you can see in the logo, we snuck in a Hebrew letter. So it's like, if you know, you know. And so it's Heritage Los Angeles. And then the designs, right? All of this was easy now because we had thought and listened, and we knew our audience. And so we talked about the ancient pathways of faith. What do you say to someone who's lost and is alone in a big city? You say, you're invited. That's it. You come be a part of us. Come check it out. Come learn. And so these were just some of the designs that showed up that expressed what the community was doing. And then obviously this was one of the concepts. I don't think this is the final. I'd have to ask. Yeah, this was one of the earliest concepts of some of that flowed out of the charrette. It all flows together to working with BGW and the property. Let me show you one more, and I'll sneak past this one. This one was fun, but I'll go to one that there was a city in West Virginia called Wheeling, West Virginia, and they're known for this bridge. It was the first suspension bridge from the east, so that people can go west and find gold. And so from the east, there was this giant river, and they could not cross. And the government had promised that they would build a bridge, and wouldn't, so the people pulled their money together and built the bridge. And this suspension bridge actually is the model that they used to do the Golden Gate once this worked. The Golden Gate Bridge followed the patterns of this. So in the late 1800s, this was the richest city in the United States because it was the 13 original colonies, right? Northeast. So they had a problem because they were at the movie theater there on Sundays, and they bought this facility in the bottom left for an academy, and they were trying to come up with a rename and a rebrand. And they paid a lot of money for an agency out of Los Angeles to come, and they said, well, you guys are the bridge. That's what your name is. And they were so deflated because that was one of their own names. And the firm came and told them something that they had already thought was their name, but they just felt like something was missing, and they didn't understand why. So we went and talked with the mayor. We went and talked with the principals of the school. We talked with the beer distributors. We talked with people who were on the streets in the local parks. We talked with grandparents and families. We also talked with the pastors and the staff and some of the church congregation and the elders. And it was like, God help us, but there's something borrowed from something that the bridge isn't even active anymore. So it would be like if you called yourself the bridge, how does that match if you have another congregation outside of the city? And how does that speak to the future? And so we walked through the steps with them, and it was a beautiful journey, but where we landed on was Newbridge. And they were moving away from the vineyard denomination being the lead vineyard Wheeling to here's who we are uniquely, who God's called us to be. And so Newbridge became a one-word thing, just like Cambridge instead of two words. And everyone just felt it. It was like, this is us. How did you know us? And this leans towards the future. It honors the past, and it honors the region. And so it flowed into their academy branding and their cafe branding, and then it just felt like everyone was united. This is what I call, there's not one right name, there's not one right logo, but it's aligned, right? When I mentioned that to the principal or the elder or the children or the young adults, they all understood it. And so I think that's an intentional process that has really, this is an inside of the theater, that we've seen that has really brought a lot of unity when you go and change naming and branding following that going forward. Here's some snapshots of what they're turning this into, the academy, and then for their family center. So that's the 3D process. And then I've got a QR code up here if you would like to talk with me. If there's any free advice I can give you, you can ask me any questions, or if we want to set up a call and discover what some of the things you guys are working on, I would love to do that. And obviously Matt and I are also part of the church strategy team. So are there any questions or feedback on what I just said? I think I rattled off a lot very quickly, but was there any questions before I let you go? Anyone at all? All right, thank you for your time. Thanks, Matt.